And we are live.
All right. I'm telling you true.
The Office Journal on Smooth 98.1.
We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. Boys and girls, because I understand that some people are already on midterm break. So if they're listening, this will benefit them and they are welcome to be future businessmen and women, future listening strategies and expert and consultant and whatever it is that they want to be. You are listening to Office Journal right here on Smooth 98.1. My name is Oluwaseun, and it's now 1 minute past 11 o'clock. If you're a stranger to us, what we do here every Tuesday from 11 till 11:50 is discuss different and every and any issue that can educate you, enlighten you, and make you a better person in terms of your career and just generally contribute to your growth and development. And on a day like this, we are talking about something that affects everybody, even aliens, because I'm guessing aliens do communicate in alien language and they need to listen to each other. So what happens? I told you earlier that according to research that was recently put out by the University of Southern California, it shows that poor listening habit and skill affect more than 70% of all employees, and that results in misunderstandings, errors, missed opportunities, arguments, stalled and poorly executed projects, as well as damaged relationship. This is something that affects everyone, and it means this conversation is for everyone, from the young to the old. So make sure you get a seat and a cup of whatever it is that you like to drink so that you get on the journey. And if you are listening, now we will have a better context to what listening is. If you're listening and you have any question in the course of the conversation, our WhatsApp line is open 0809-444-0981, while our call line is 01448-9981. Of course, I'm not an expert in this field. I do have someone who is joining me via Zoom out of a very busy schedule, and I appreciate that very much. She is the founder of the Listening School. And the Listening School is the first listening school in West Africa to teach listening intelligence as part of leadership strategy. So please, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do welcome my special guest this morning, Ebele Chukwujama. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. Thank you for that introduction, very warm introduction, and thank you for having me.
Oh, I am all smiles because I cannot wait to get to the meat of this conversation. I am itching to understand what listening really entails, as well as why we don't listen, why it's as if we like to talk more than listen, and how we somehow think keeping quiet is the same as listening. So I cannot wait to get into that. But first, as I mentioned in the introduction, your school, your listening school, is the first in West Africa. What prompted you to start a listening school?
Okay, thank you for that, Seun. So I remember a time not too long ago when I was in a conversation with a friend, and I could tell that she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. And it was really so frustrating and so upsetting. And it made me realize that just how common this issue of not listening is in our daily interactions. So the listening school was born out of the belief that many people struggle to pay attention when they're in conversations with other people. And the consequences of this poor listening can be quite significant. Like you mentioned, it can lead to misunderstandings, it can lead to emotional discomfort, and even conflicts in our relationships. So think about it in various aspects of our lives, be it at home or in the workplace. Research has shown that the average person can only recall about 50% of what they heard immediately after hearing it. And even more concerning, after 3 days, we tend to retain a mere 10% of the original message. These statistics are quite shocking, and they highlight the real issue we face with our listening skills. So the problem lies in us and how we perceive listening. We tend to see it as a passive process that doesn't demand much effort. Like we hear the words, but we often fail to grasp the true meaning behind those words.
Thank you. I like how you pointed out that it's not a passive thing, because again, earlier I read out something that was the result of a medical study, and I was personally surprised myself. So according to them, they said effective listening actually takes a lot of mental work, in the sense that when you say you're truly listening, there is a lot of brain activity going on. There is a possibility of a slightly increased blood pressure. There is the chance that your pulse rate might increase. And I'm thinking, just from listening, why? So let's get to understand what active listening really is, because it is different from just saying, I can hear you, or keep talking. What exactly is active listening?
Okay, so listening is the incontrovertible half of communication. So you can't say you've communicated without listening. It's the other half, okay? And it's one of those skills that we think we're good at, but a lot more than just hearing those words. It's a superpower human skill in communication, right? And true listening is when you just not hear the words, but you hear the speaker feels valued and feels heard and understood. Okay, listening is a creative force. It is that thing that holds all conversations together. I believe that it is the bedrock of all competences and capabilities. Listening is not hearing, because you hear with your ears, which is passive, but you listen with your brains, which is cognitive. So because we can hear the sound, I can hear the generator on and the air conditioner on, means that I'm not deaf. But listening requires you to exercise some cognitive ability.
That's interesting. So listening is very much mental and takes the whole of your brain cells. Okay. So in other words, a person who's hungry cannot listen. That's my interpretation of it.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct, because there's some things that will I call it barriers, or things that that will hinder listening, and one of that is being hungry or being fatigued or overwhelmed. It can just hinder listening.
Thank you. I was going to ask how vital listening is in the communication process, as well as relationship and every other thing, but you have already explained that. So we can as well go over to some of the reasons why people need to be more mindful of listening, and they need to acquire listening skills.
Okay, so you said it quite aptly. Every day we show up, we spend 70 to 80% of our time in communication. In that bucket, 55% of that time is devoted to listening. So think about it. Every time you turn up, you spend each day 55% of your day listening. So listening is so important in the workforce, because you do it all the time. You need to listen. You can't say you're in communication without listening. It enables a psychological safe environment. It is at the heart of empathy. It is at the heart of diversity. It is at the heart of inclusion, belonging, and engagement. Listening fosters trust and unity in a team. It builds a team cohesiveness, and a team becomes more collaborative when they truly imbibe listening as part of their ethos.
Okay, thank you.
It can be a matter of life and death, Shay. Well, let me tell you why I say so. So imagine with me a distracted hostage negotiator. Imagine that. Imagine also an airline pilot that tunes out of air traffic control. Or imagine an ER physician that fails to listen to a critical ill patient's symptoms. These are all extreme examples, but listening can be a matter of life and death, and it is a super skill that leaders and entrepreneurs need for today.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. Now we're going to break, and when we come back, we need to dig further into why humans have so many distractions in their mind and how to arrest those things, how to hold your mind, because it is very human for you to be listening to someone and you're thinking of the food you have in the fridge, or you're thinking of something, that cloth you're supposed to wear, or something will just pop up in your mind randomly. So how do you hold your mind when you are listening, and how do you even know somebody's listening to you, and so many things like that? We'll take all of that after this break. You're listening to Office Journal right here on Smooth 19.1. I mean, sometimes I'm in a conversation and it's like somebody's drumming in my head, or I suddenly hear something from, like, no, help me concentrate. It
happens, and you're wired to get distracted internally. Your body is wired to be distracted physiologically. Your mind is wired to wander off in conversations. Okay. The point is, when your self-awareness is mastery, when your mind wanders off or checks out,
98.1.
you're meant to bring it back into the conversation. It's a natural thing.
The rest of the world, as we bring
and the more intentional you are with it, the more aware you are about it, the more you practice it, it becomes natural to wander back in that conversation when you wander off.
The greatest activity in music happens during.
I'm enjoying every beat of this conversation. I am.
Thank you. Unique sounds of places, people, and culture and come alive in your soul. It's a taste of the world on the Casbah here at Smooth 98.1. Weekday afternoon from 1.
Hello, I'm Richard Quest of CNN. This is Smooth 98.1.
Exactly what Richard Quest said. You're listening to Smooth 98.1, and the show right now is Office Journal. Every Tuesday from 11 till 11:50, we talk about your development, your growth, your career strategy, and those things that you just need to have to be a well-rounded individual. And we are talking about the art of listening. Definitely something everybody should know. And everybody should be actively involved, because we need to listen, we need to communicate. And like my guest said, it is one important half of the communication process. So my guest is Ebele Chukwujama, and she is the founder of the Listening School. My name is Oluwaseun. We're streaming live on YouTube, where you can see our faces and drop your comment as well using the live chat option. That will be youtube.com/Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Or you simply go to YouTube and search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Once you see the Love Music, Love Life tag, then that is us. Now, going back to it, I said I have a ton of questions to ask. For instance, how can you hold your mind when you are listening? All those distractions, because we have said it is an active process. How do I put my mind in place to hear everything that is being said?
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Thank you for that. So it's just being aware and intentional about being in that conversation or with your conversational partner. So your mind is designed to check out in a conversation. Physiologically, you're wired to check out in a conversation. But being aware of it is what we are talking to you about today, because self-awareness is mastery. So when you go into a conversation and your mind wanders off or checks out, you're meant to bring it back into that conversation. It's meant to be intentional, because when you're in a conversation with someone, you're allowing the speaker to express more about themselves, and you want to know what the speaker is saying by trying to understand their perspectives, by looking at the nonverbal cues and facial expressions, by asking the right questions, by just being present and in the moment. And that would enable you not to check out. Most times when you check out in a conversation, it's because maybe lack of interest, internal distractions, maybe you've carried off something from your prior engagement into a conversation. So your mind is thinking about that report you have to do, or you're really hungry and you haven't had your snack. That would not allow you to pay more attention in the conversation. So your mind wanders off. And it's okay, it's a natural phenomenon, but we're saying that when you check out of that conversation, you need to check right back in there, bring it back into the conversation.
So as many times you check out, you need to check back in. That is one interesting cycle. But generally, what are those things that might constitute as barriers in listening?
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Barriers, I heard you. Barriers. The first off is distractions. We have, like I said, internal distractions and external distractions. Our biggest external being these devices that we've got on here, our phones, notification. It's a huge distraction, aside from the noise. Another big one there is multitasking. Multitasking is antithetical to listening. You cannot multitask while you're listening, because listening is a cognitive behavior. But most of us multitask whilst you're on the phone. You're saying to me, "Oh, Ebele, I can hear you, please carry on." Or you're send an email to someone and you're saying to someone, "Please carry on, I want to send an email, just keep talking." We do it all the time. And that limits listening, because you wouldn't hear everything and how it was said. And you can't do listening and any other thing, because they both require cognitive ability. But we are done it out of habit. We've assumed poor listening habits over the years, from culture, from our workplace, because when you were born, Sheung, all they did was an ear check. No one did, or can Sheung can hear, so she's not deaf. Because we went to school to learn how to read and how to write and how to speak. Some of us are going through advanced speaking classes like Toastmasters, but we didn't go to school to learn how to listen. Because research has shown that only 2% in the whole world has had a formal education on listening. So we multitask because we've assumed those poor habits over the years. And the third thing there is the lack of interest in that topic. So you will tune out. Imagine that you go into work and your supervisor pulls you into a meeting that you didn't plan for. And on that day on your to-do list, you have a ton of work to do. And respectfully, because it's your supervisor, you go into that meeting, but you lack no interest. You have no interest in that meeting. You are going to not listen. Or if you're a coffee person, we have people that love coffee, and you haven't had your coffee fix in the morning, and you get pulled into a meeting. That is a barrier. Or you are hungry, or you've gone into traffic and you're tired, or you're overwhelmed. These are all, or you have what we call unconscious biases, that you don't even know you have a bias for it until you get into conversation. And the one we do a lot more is the one we call the fake listening, where you're then nodding at me, you're smiling at me, but you've checked out. We do it all the time.
So that the other person does not feel bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that now leads me to the other part of the question. How do you know someone is listening to you?
Well, by the time they pay eye contact, because you're listening to me, you meant to give me eye contact. By the time they ask some clarifying questions, by the time they paraphrase what you're saying just to gain more clarity or understanding, by the time they validate your feelings, And these are all the nuances you can say, oh, this person is really into what I'm saying. And the speaker has to feel heard and understood. You see, when you say to me, Ebele, you're not listening to me, and I parrot back what you just said, that is the act of listening. The art of listening is that I have to feel heard and understood. Most of us do the act where we just parrot back what we just heard. And everything else you didn't hear, the last things I said, you just repeat it back like, you repeat what I said because you think you heard me. We do it a lot. Oh no, I'm listening to you now. You said X, Y, Z. That you parrot it back, it means that your ears are working. So the person has to feel understood and heard. The word is feel, the speaker or your conversational partner. There has to be eye contact. There has to be the head nods. There has to be the asking clarifying questions to gain clarity in what the speaker is saying. Because it's one thing to speak, it's another thing to listen and understand what I'm saying the way I want it to be understood. And the way you understand it is by asking clarifying questions, by paraphrasing, by validating my feelings. And all of that will show that Ebele or Seun is really in tune with that conversation. They really want to know about it. And also we have diverse perspectives, and it is okay to acknowledge those perspectives.
Thank you. I almost had to hold my breath. Thank you. Now, if you are just tuning in to us, this is Smooth 98.1. The show you're listening to is Office Journal, and we are talking about the art of listening. You can join us on WhatsApp if you have any question or something you'd like to say. The WhatsApp line is 0809-444-0981. Again, 0809-444-0981, while the call line is 01-448-9981. We're also streaming live on YouTube, and you can go there if you'd like to. Save it and share the stream with your family and friends. At least that will actually help all of you to have better relationship, because communication is very important in keeping and holding relationships. So if you'd like to also drop a comment there, that is totally welcome. That's youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. And just to recap, in case someone has missed out, some of the barriers to listening, there are quite a lot actually, but some of the ones I was able to capture, which a good number of people are guilty of, including myself, is multitasking. That is a huge barrier. You have the internal distractions, you have environmental distractions sometimes, you even have your unconscious bias as well as lack of interest. You can be overwhelmed as well. So many of that. So the key is for you to be aware of these things and then keep holding yourself accountable. Now, going back to some of the steps that we can take in actively listening. Now, I know you have said it, but I just want to keep this things over and over so that it's crystal clear to someone and they know that, yes, this is it. There is no other way around it. Because like you have said, communication is not complete until a person has understood it the way that person intends it. So if you say A, I should be saying A back to you. But aside that, before I even go to the steps in active listening, just again to, I want you to reiterate something you said, how you go beyond the words to what is not said. Because you said listening is not just hearing the spoken words, but what is not said, maybe your body language or the tone. How can a person go beyond what is said?
So thank you for that. That's called deep listening, listening beyond words. And now you're listening to nonverbal cues like tone, pace, facial expressions. So imagine that, Seun, I come into work. Just imagine with me, I come into work and you said to me, hi, Ebele, good morning. And I say to you this way, just bear with me. I say, hi, Seun, good morning. You see, my tone has reduced. I'm not paying eye contact. But because, Seun, you're so intelligent, you're asking, no, Ebele, even though you're saying you're fine, what is going on? And by the way, Seun, you are meant to be my supervisor. I've come into work late. I'm a bit tardy today. that's not the point. The point is Sheun wants to understand why Ebele is not her usual self, even though she's saying she was fine. So I go to you to say, oh, Sheun, thank you for asking. I had a cousin come over the night to spend the night and felt all poorly through the night. And because of that, I woke up really tired, and that's why I'm tardy. You see, because I even said I was fine, but Sheun, you went ahead to say, no, Ebele, something is not wrong, because I can see that your shoulders are shrunken, your face, you're not directly giving me eye contact, and your pace is low. So you see, that is listening beyond words. And that is where the magic really happens. Or if I've gone through traffic and I've had 3-4 hours of Lagos traffic, and I come into work and my system is not working, I'm feeling flustered and I'm feeling so irritated. You will notice, you will say, oh, just go on. You will say, oh, Ebele, I see how you're feeling. I understand what you're feeling. Let me help you get your systems up. That is validating my feelings. They are my feelings. Does it mean that I won't get penalized from HR for coming to work late? I will get that memo from HR. But you want to understand where I'm coming from first. And listening helps you to do that. So the steps you're asking me to articulate is first, make eye contact. Second, use the appropriate facial expression. The third is ask clarifying questions. The fourth is avoid interruptions. This is so heavy. This is so heavy and prevalent because we interrupt people mid-sentence. We help them finish up their sentences. We think we know where they are going. So we avoid interruptions and validate people's feelings, then paraphrase what you think you heard for clarity.
Thank you very much. We will go on another break, and when we come back, we will continue with the discussion on listening. You are listening to Smooth 98.1. Okay. That is interesting.
There was no bond stronger than that between
interruptions. I think when we come back, so I'll need you to further speak on how we can hold ourselves back from interrupting. Because sometimes people do it out of excitement, and there are people who want to help. You know, there are probably different reasons.
I'll give you some tips on that. Even though it's meant to be my paid session, I'm going to give it to your audience for free.
Thank you.
But don't say that to them, please. I'm just saying, I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 tips I use in my sessions of how not to interrupt. Yeah. And they can practice it because listening is a practicable and learnable skill I can start to do today. As simple as putting down these devices, this is a huge distraction. This alone is just enough because somebody is speaking to you, you are there talking on your phone, you're not hearing them, you're doing the act of listening and not the art of listening.
Yeah. Love music, love life, love you, actually. And that's why we have all these programs. You're listening to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. We are talking about the art of listening, and turns out it is way different from the act of listening. And we've been talking a whole lot about that since 11 o'clock. So if you're just joining us, I dare say you have missed out a lot. But hey, there is a second chance. You can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. When the stream is done, you can replay it and also share with your family and friends. And I do have my special guest this morning. She is Ebele Chukwujama, and she's a founder of the Listening School. So before the break, she told us a number of steps that can help you actively listening. For instance, you have to make eye contact. You have to be aware of the facial expressions. You have to ask clarifying questions and avoid interruptions, which is such a human thing to do. Now we need help on how not to be overly excited and interrupt every time, or just, even when we disagree with someone and you don't allow them to finish what they're saying, you just cut right in. So how can you avoid interruptions, or maybe interrupt gracefully?
Okay, thank you for that. So interrupting tells the speaker that you do not value what they have to say, that your voice is more important than theirs, which means you're not listening. And when you interrupt someone, your brain goes into a fight or flight mode. It goes back to reset. That is why if you're in an audience or you're presenting behind, you're doing a speech or you have presentation and someone interrupts you respectfully, your brain goes back to a reset where you ask the audience, where was I? It happens, right? Because your brain has gone back to reset. But there are ways what it's interrupting is not a habit. We need to unlearn those habits. And there are 3 or 4 tips I can help share with your audience on how not to interrupt. The first tip is write your thoughts down. Write it down because it helps you, it ensures you don't blurt out what you want to say immediately, and also you don't forget what you want to say. So the first tip is write your thoughts down. If you have a device like all these gadgets that we have on here, it's okay to ask the speaker, is it okay if I take some notes? If you're putting those thoughts down digitally, so they don't assume that you're checking WhatsApp when they're speaking to you. So always ask if it's okay to take the notes down. That's the first tip. Write your thought down. The second tip is pause for 3 seconds. So when I'm speaking to you and I pause, I take a break for 2 things, to catch my breath or to gather my thoughts together. That is not the time for you to interject when I'm about to catch my breath. That is the time for you to count 3 seconds in your mind silently. When I'm done speaking, I'm done speaking. But if I'm not done speaking, I'll carry on. So when you're counting, you're doing the 3-second count, it allows you to pace me if I'm really done speaking. And the last tip I'm going to share here, apart from paying eye contact, is apply WAIT. WAIT is an acronym that stands for Why Am I Talking? WAIT is an acronym that stands for Why Am I Talking? I see you, Cheryl, you're like shaking your head. Hold on a minute. Let me tell you why that is important. And when you apply WAIT, there are 4 questions you need to ask yourself in that moment. The first question is, does this need to be said? The second question is, does this need to be said by me? The third question is, does this need to be said by me right now? And the fourth is, does this need to be said in front of this audience? If the answer is no, just wait and listen. And we say practice makes improvement. So we just keep practicing it until it becomes second nature. And when you see yourself interrupting, it's okay to say to the person, oh, I do apologize. I'm trying to break this habit. Please carry on. It's okay to do that, to stop yourself, apologize, and let them go on.
Wow. Simply wow. Thank you. And I'm not the only one saying thank you. Michael on WhatsApp is saying thank you as well. He says, thanks for the info. I feel vindicated now. I had a friend who talks to me on the phone and goes about her activities pari passu. Each time I demand for 100% attention, she says I am nagging. A couple days back, I gave someone a task which she acknowledged, but acted contrary and then apologized how she missed the instruction. So I asked, what did you acknowledge to? There is so much more. Now I'm vindicated that I am not the crazy one after all. Thank you. Well, you can be like Michael and send your messages to WhatsApp. That is 0809-444-0981. Again, 0809-444-0981. I mean, there is so much that has been said that I possibly cannot do all the recap, but I'll try in my bit. Now, before I try to do any form of recap, how do you get people to listen to you? Because it looks like it's a choice they have to take on their own. And one of the things I've been able to infer from something that you've said about how you can watch a person's body language and their gestures and facial expressions, it seems to me as if you need empathy to listen. You need to care enough to want to listen. So how do you get people to listen to you?
So I think you want to be the change you want to see. Okay, when you listen better, you speak better. And you speak without being offensive and listen without being defensive. And everybody's got their perspective and their point of view, and it's all valid. And yes, listening is at the heart of empathy, because once I'm talking to you, I want to know why Seun is saying what she's saying. I want to understand her. I don't want to judge her or have a preconceived opinion around this topic or assume I know it. I know where she's going. So come on, I need to understand that Seun is telling me something that I have never heard before. I have to open up my mind to be curious enough to understand it. And once I do that, people mirror that. They mirror what you're doing. So become the change you want to see. And it takes practice because we haven't been taught how to listen. So you want everyone's perspective is valid. And I'm not saying that you must be in agreement, but I'm saying everyone's perspective, we're all diverse, is important. And you need to understand where they're coming from. You need to understand what it is they're saying in the moment. And you have to be present physically and attuned to what they're saying. When they leave that conversation, listening has some intrinsic motivation that it leaves with you, that you felt heard. And every time I want to run something by anyone, I go to Seun because Seun listens to me. Seun is a great leader. Because what is leadership? Leaders are thinkers and thinkers are listeners.
Okay. Thank you. Leaders are thinkers and thinkers are listeners. Very, very important. All right. We will soon take a break. And when we come back, we will again be wrapping up because before you know it, time is gone. It's now 37 minutes past 11 o'clock. And if you're just joining the stream, or maybe you are listening to us in your car and you're about to step away from your radio set or any of your sets that you're using to listen to us, and you're worried you might miss out on the remaining part of this conversation, what you need to do is go to our website and stream live. Our website is www.smooth981.fm. Again, www.smooth981.fm. All you need to do is click on the listen live option and you are good to go. You can listen to us even if you're in the Antarctica. As long as there is internet connection, you will always get us there. Then Muste on WhatsApp says, attention is now an economy due to the abundance of information and notification, thanks to technology. Our minds are everywhere. Even in religious places, they have to beg us to be present. Don't you think this will be a feature going forward? Some call it ADHD, but today's devices have made us multitasking specialists. Can we stop it? We can see ourselves, but have to listen to each other. Even when reading messages, we are listening to ourselves. How do we prevent our biases from interfering? I have a quote to share I came across. All right, I'll be waiting for that quote. But you want to say something to that message?
It's not being intentional, Seun. It's just being aware of these biases. You prepare to listen. We go into meetings, we plan to go into a meeting, what we have to say. We go through our deck and we plan what we'll say, how we'll say it, but we do not plan to listen. So we need to prepare in a meeting, in a conversation. I'm going to prepare to listen. I'm going to take away all kind of distractions, whether it's internal. I have to look for a safe environment that is noise-free. I have to lay aside every preconceived opinions I got so that I can pay attention and be in the moment.
Thank you. Michael on WhatsApp says, seconded with lots of exclamation marks. There is a therapeutic feeling that comes with being heard. And on YouTube, Christopher, I see you. Thank you for being there. Okay, so Musi has shared a quote and it is by Larry King, CNN. He says, I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening. Wise man. All right. We will go on that break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping this conversation up, sadly, and then telling you more about what to look forward to. You're listening to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1.
Care after, and you're listening to Smooth 98.
Connection is very important. Keep it strong at home.
The time flew by real fast.
Internet devices. 20,000
Yeah,
naira.
thank you for being just a wonderful host. Lovely speaking
Thank
with
you
you.
for being so
Really lovely.
grateful.
And
Wi-Fi.
Oh, you said?
5 gigabytes and gigabytes instantly. Hurry to the nearest.
now I'll say that it's important that listening is become it's the heart of communication. But because we haven't been exposed to it, it's now in our blind spots. So we do it unconsciously. So we have to unlearn those habits to learn new habits. Just like your muscle has to be trained. You have to train your listening muscles to listen. But most of us are so distracted because we've assumed habits. What are habits? They're things we do repeatedly, consistently over time. Going into a meeting with your phone, someone is giving a speech, you're checking your WhatsApp. It's a habit. But you're in the room, you're meant to lay aside. And this helps you with productivity because you run meetings efficiently if everyone listens and don't ask the same question. Most of us, someone is talking, they've asked a question, because you didn't pay attention, you ask them the same question. And the meeting takes a drag. So if we can all imbibe this and it becomes part of our ethos, the environment where we work become more productive. There'll be staff loyalty. It's not as toxic because everyone has a point of view, and my point of view will not make me less or more. It's just my point of view. Even if you're the CEO in that meeting, it's my point of view.
Thank you. Love music and love life. Now, if you are not streaming on YouTube, you have missed out on juicy details of this conversation. You know that feeling that comes with the bottom pot of the jollof rice? Yeah, that's what you just missed out because you were not streaming on YouTube. But it's not too late for you to join the stream. We have about how many minutes? Say 6 minutes. youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. And we are talking about listening. It's been quite an enlightening conversation, even for me. And I'm grateful for my guest this morning. She mentioned how listening is something that is not taught. In fact, according to the data you said, about only 2% of people said they have gone through a form of listening education or the other. So that's to tell you that it sounds like the implication is there will be more people. The ones who have gone through that education will probably be more frustrated by the people who have not gone through it, because it means you're listening to someone or you're speaking to someone and the person is not listening to you. And you wish you could just transfer that knowledge to them and say, hey, this is not it. Just like what Michael said the other time, that he feels vindicated because he tries to say you are not listening to me and you are making me feel like the weird person. So thank you for that. Now I have Clement British Man on WhatsApp saying, good morning, Oluwaseun and your lovely guest. I'm listening closely, always here for your segment, Smooth FM College. That's an interesting way to put it. Now, I do have a question for you outside of this. Do you think listening should be incorporated into our curriculum in schools? Or how do we go about it? How do we raise a generation of people who can communicate really?
Thank you for that, Sharon. So I believe that listening starts from there as well, because you can't say you've we speak every day and we listen every day. Look at the statistics, okay? And I think it was Dalai Lama that said it this way: when you speak, you share knowledge, but when you listen, you learn. Over the years, we've prioritized speaking for so long. And when you listen, you learn. So when you go into the classrooms, how do they listen? And imagine that you go into a meeting and 10 people are in that meeting and you think they are aligned with the task at hand, only for you to come out and they do the exact opposite. They all heard you, but they all heard you differently. And you'll be saying, but I thought you said this. No, I meant that. That is miscommunication there, and that is conflict. But imagine that we all went through a listening education from kindergarten, primary, secondary, or university. We will not have conflicts and wars and misunderstandings the way we have them. We haven't been exposed to listening. So it starts from having it in our curriculum. How you teach them how to speak and write and read. The other half is listening. It is a practicable and learnable skill that has to start from that ground.
Thank you. Now, away from school, how can parents actually teach their children this? And if I am to refer to what you have said, it feels like parents themselves need to start this.
Yeah, because they haven't been exposed. I don't blame any parent. We haven't been exposed to listening. I'm still work in progress. No one went to school to learn how to listen. And you can't say, oh, I'm a good listener. It takes the conversational partner to say, oh, I feel heard and understood. It takes one listening ear at a time. Practice makes improvement. So you start by taking away your devices when you are speaking to your children or your spouse. That is a huge difference, and that's a win. It starts by not interrupting them when they're speaking. These are things you can do practicably today that will enhance your listening at home. It also starts with empathy. I need to know what my child is saying. So I'm going to paraphrase what I think I'm hearing so that I can understand him better or understand her better. It starts by giving eye contact, not when they're speaking to you, you're on your phone saying, I'm hearing you, and doing the act of listening and not the art of listening. These are the things that we can start to do today, or better still, come to the listening school and we'll just educate you on these things.
Okay. Thank you I cannot thank you enough for the volume of wealth and information that you have released to us today. Thank you. Unfortunately, we need to quickly wrap things up for today. However, I will take these messages from Musti. Well, thank you for your kind compliment, Musti. Then he further goes to say, I know this listening part for couples can be a big deal. It's when they meet therapists, they realize they've not been listening to each other. For our curriculum, look at how we discuss on social media. It's a war zone. They even call it violence. It's evidence of our education, combatants. Go to Twitter and you see that. Then he says, please do a part 2 of this because you have raised the issue of parents to kids, our school, etc. This topic needs a lecture series, even how to listen to radio. We can be smoothly listeners. Well, I wish I could promise that, but that is not entirely up to me. But in the meantime, you can find the listening school as well as Ebele Chukwujama on social media, right? How can they do that?
Okay, we have a number as the listening school number is 0903 521 3645. And we are LinkedIn as the listening school. We're on Instagram as the listening school. We're on Facebook at the listening school, and we're on Thread as the listening school.
Thank you. I am in the same camp with Musti. I want to continue this conversation, but my hands are tied. Time is up. Maybe we will get to do the second part of this if you will oblige me. I wouldn't mind, because we need to talk about how listening affects relationship, how listening raises impatient and unempathetic people and people who are just so mean. and they see some things that are not normal as normal. And you go to Twitter and you see how it is a sad reflection of people. I mean, you see people reading the tweet spells it out that this is what I mean. And you see some people saying, are you now trying to say this? Come on, there is no reason. Some people listen to fight, some listen to nitpick and look for the holes. You don't have to be that. So maybe if you will give us another day, we will talk about how listening can affect relationships and what needs to be done. And then we will, talk about that more. But I hope, again, you have been able to listen to a number of things and most importantly, put them into practice. You can find this YouTube stream on YouTube. That will be youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. It's been a pleasure from 11 till now having Ebele Chukwujama, who's the founder of Listening School, as my guest. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Seun, for having me. I have a quote. It's a favorite of mine, and I am going to leave that with your audience. It's by a man called Andy Stanley, and it reads this way: leaders who do not listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing to say. End of quote.
That is a strong punchline. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that you are listening and you keep listening to Smooth 98.1 because we have a lot of things to say to you and good music to play for you. Thank you. Next week, we return same time, 11 to 11:50 on Office Journal. So take care of yourself now. Bye.
98.1.
Thank you. I mean, that was so blissful, so therapeutic, I dare say. It was like a session.